All right, I've already loosened the tie. My duties at NBC Sports Bay Area finished for the evening after working the pregame show, the postgame show, doing 49ers Talk podcast with Jennifer Lee Chan. That should be posting soon. This was one of those games where even before it started, I kind of knew, like, boy, if the Flyers find a way to win this, it will be the most impressive victory, I think, of the Kyle Shanahan era, at least in the regular season. You could certainly look at the two playoff victories that they had against the Packers and the Lions in the 2023 season, just because of the deficits they overcame to win those games, especially the NFC Championship game. I'm thinking back to the 2020 season when they were shorthanded. Nick Mullins was a quarterback, and they were big underdogs against the Rams. That was an impressive win. But I think what makes this one more impressive is, that team in 2020 was going nowhere. And so in a lot of ways, there's nothing much to lose for them. And whether I would never say a team takes another team lightly, but that was an improbable victory, beating the Rams, and they were a big underdog in that one. But what makes this, I think, so impressive is that the 49ers are fighting for something. They're fighting for the playoffs, and even with the injuries they've had, starting off the season 2-0 within the division, they're going to be there at the end. So all of these victories early in the year, those all mean a lot, because at some point, Brock Purdy will be healthy, I would think. Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle for sure, and I think he'll be back probably in Week 6 against Tampa Bay. The only player that they don't have now that they won't have for sure for the entire season is Nick Bosa. And of course, that's a big one. That showed up again on Thursday night. 49ers have a really difficult time getting pressure on the quarterback without Nick Bosa, but maybe they can do some things. Their only sack they got was on a blitz. I think it was Jason Pinnock coming on a blitz, and basically the Rams either picked up or didn't really block at all Bryce Huff, and so he gets to Matthew Stafford to get the sack. But this is a game that was, I won't say the 49ers stole it, but I think maybe the national perception would be that the 49ers weren't going to win this game. On the Wednesday when they declare Brock Purdy out, Juwan Jennings out, Ricky Pearsall out, I think the perception was that the 49ers weren't going to win this game. So in order for them to win this game, go 3-0 in the division after the first round of division games all wrapped up, that is super significant. The Rams have the loss to the Eagles earlier. Now they have the loss to the 49ers. The Seahawks have lost to the 49ers, and the Cardinals have lost to the 49ers. So this is the kind of game, I think, that gives both the veterans and the young players tons of confidence. It gives the young players like Alfred Collins, who came up with that huge strip and fumble recovery of Kyren Williams at the goal line, gives him tremendous confidence. A guy like Marquise Siegel, who was picked on some in coverage, maybe a lot in coverage, to have him come in that last play to stop, to really put the nail in the coffin as far as stopping Kyren Williams in overtime. That's a huge play for him, a confidence builder. Upton Stout holding his own by and large in this game. So the young guys, but also the veteran guys, to be able to look around and see, hey, these young guys can carry their end of the bargain. It's got to be a tremendous feeling for Fred Warner to know, hey, I don't have to do everything by myself, because there's a guy like Alfred Collins, who, by the way, did not get off to a great start in training camp, and kind of wondered if this guy would even really fit into the defensive line rotation. He's just gotten better and better and better. So a tremendous victory for the 49ers. And when I talk about the veteran guys, what about the two veteran pickups the 49ers have had? Two guys coming over, maybe one directly, I guess, from New England, the other one indirectly from New England. But where would the 49ers be without Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne? And, the Mac Jones pickup, I think we could kind of see that could be big. I think we could see from an early time that if something were to happen to Brock Purdy, that Mac Jones would be able to step in and the 49ers offense would be just fine. But I think when I thought that, I was thinking, yeah, I think they could be just fine with Mac Jones, but it would have to be with Christian McCaffrey running the ball well. Foreigners getting a lot of yards on the ground. It would have to be with George Kittle being George Kittle as a run blocker, but also as a pass receiver. Somebody just get the ball in his hands and watch him take off. It would have to be with Ricky Pearsall, kind of taking the last few games of last season, bringing him forward this year, and Pearsall playing at the level that the 49ers thought they would get from him when they made him a first-round draft pick. It would be a Juwan Jennings carrying over the 2024 season to 2025, and it'd probably be with Brandon Ayuk at some point getting back on the field. But for Mac Jones to help engineer this victory without Pearsall, without Jennings, without Kittle, and with a running game that was going nowhere, super impressive. And then Kendrick Bourne. Holy cow, Kendrick Bourne. What a bad game he had against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 3 drops. Was definitely part of the problem, not part of the solution in that game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And on this night, 11 targets, 10 catches, 142 yards. And one of the key things that was really evident in this game, and it shows you Mac Jones' leadership, and it shows you his connection with Kendrick Bourne. They played together for 3 seasons with the New England Patriots. Bourne did have a third down drop pass. And when they were going off the field, to see Mac Jones go right up to him, kind of pat him on the head, and the way I read it was, I'm coming back to you, and you're going to be making some plays later in this game. And boy, did he ever make some plays. So, Christian McCaffrey, again, did not run the ball effectively, only 2.6 yards per pass or per rushing attempt. However, 8 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. 49ers struggle in the red zone again. He caught that 1-yard touchdown pass on a choice route. Really a well-designed play by Kyle Shanahan. Jake Tonjes, how about him? 7 catches, 41 yards, and a touchdown. So offensively, the 49ers did very well. They still, one of the things I talked about, their running game, and they did not run the ball effectively. However, 3 for 3 on 4th down runs. That was Mac Jones, 2 quarterback sneaks, Brian Robinson with a 4th down conversion. Defensively, you knew it was going to be rough, but the offense did not give the ball up, and the defense took it away twice. One of those early on was a fumble recovery by Travis Gibson, who's just up from the practice squad for this game. And then the big one. Wow. Alfred Collins. What a play he made at the goal line. Saves that game late in regulation. Just a huge, huge play for him to come up with that play. That was after the 49ers had taken a 23-20 lead on Eddie Piñeiro's 59-yard field goal. Collins comes up with that play. 49ers were able to milk they didn't really milk much clock. They took over at the 1-yard line. They got it out from the shadow of the end zone, and then they punted. The Rams tie it up at the final 2 seconds of regulation. And then in overtime, 49ers lose the toss, which is probably good. They probably didn't want to be put in a position where they had to choose whether to kick off or receive. They end up receiving. And, some big time plays, they just come out right away. Juszczyk pass reception for 12 yards. McCaffrey for 15 yards. Tonjes for 6 yards. McCaffrey again for 7 yards. 1 sack in the game for the Rams defensive front. I thought the 49ers offensive line played very well, protecting Mac Jones about as well as you could hope against that very young, aggressive, explosive defensive front for the Rams. And then that leads to Piñeiro's 41-yard field goal, gives the 49ers the lead. And then Matthew Stafford and that Rams offense marched right down the field. And it all came down to a 4th and 1 play from the 11-yard line. And boy, what about the cat and mouse there? 49ers call a timeout, get their defense the way they wanted it. The Rams come out. They see how the 49ers line up. They call a timeout. And at that point, I'm thinking, is he just going to kick the field goal here? And no, they went for it. wanted to put the ball in Kyron Williams' hands again, and the 49ers had that thing sniffed out. Robert Saleh, big props to him, getting those guys in the right positions to make the play, and it seemed like just about everybody on the defense had a hand in that. And the two guys that stopped it, who get credit for the assisted tackle, Marquis Siegel, who had a rough day, targeted in coverage a lot on this day, and Diamador Lenore, who also had a rough day, 3 penalties on him. Those guys kind of wiped that thing clean, and then the celebration ensues, and the 49ers have plenty of reason to celebrate this victory because they're coming off a game that was about as ugly as it got against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they were about as banged up as they could get coming into this game on a short week. And without so many of those key guys, they freaking rose to the occasion and pull off this 26-23 victory. And now being 3-0 in the division, being in a spot now where they go to Tampa Bay in 10 weeks. And I think Kittle will be back out there, but I'm not sure about Purdy. It doesn't make sense to bring him back unless there's 100% certainty that toe injury is done. It's over. It's a thing of the past. But I just don't know. I think the 49ers felt that way. They felt good about where he was going into the Jacksonville game, and he comes out of it aggravating it, unable to play in this game. He stayed behind in the Bay Area. And then with Jennings, with Pearsall, how ready will they be for that Week 6 game against Tampa Bay? But I do think Kittle will be back out there, and I'm just going to take a wild prediction here and say that the 49ers running game will be a lot better with George Kittle out there. And it's not just because of the blocking, it's also because of the threat of the pass that the 49ers haven't had. But on this night, with Mac Jones throwing for 342 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Kendrick Bourne catching 10 passes for 142 yards, maybe a little bit more respect should be shown to the passing game, because Kyle Shanahan obviously decided, hey, not able to run the ball as effectively as they'd like, so they went right to it. Going back to the impressive wins, my first year covering the team was 1995. 49ers had lost 2 games in a row. They lost them to Carolina, the expansion Carolina Panthers, and also to the Saints. They were banged up. They were 5-4, I believe, and they go to face the mighty Dallas Cowboys, who were 8-1. And it was kind of similar to this. Nobody really gave the 49ers much of a chance. And, I've come to the point now where I would never say, there's no way they can win that game. And this is the NFL. Crazy things happen. And, but I did think that a lot of things would have to go their way in this game. Much like they went well for the 49ers in that game back in 1995 in Dallas. Jerry Rice from Elvis Gerbach, long touchdown pass early in the game. About a minute later, Merton Hanks scoops up a fumble. He takes it in. 49ers had a 14-0 lead, like 90 seconds into this game. And although it wasn't a 14-0 lead 90 seconds into the game for the 49ers, they took their first drive, marched down the field, chew up a lot of clock, come out of it with a touchdown, the Jake Tonjes touchdown pass. Again, Bryce Huff had a sack that ended the drive for the Rams. 49ers get it back. They go down, and it's McCaffrey, 1-yard touchdown pass from Mac Jones. And so what was it about? How much time was left? That was in the, they had a 14-0 lead. I mean, it wasn't 90 seconds. It was in the second quarter when they scored that second touchdown. But what it does was it created the tone, set the tone for this game, and gave the 49ers belief that they could win it. And then later on, you knew the Rams were going to come back. They did, and the 49ers had an answer. They had an answer on offense. They had an answer on defense. They had an answer on special teams. So a very impressive victory for the 49ers. Doesn't mean in my mind they're Super Bowl bound or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is this game is the kind of game that means a heck of a lot in December when things start heating up. And like I said, even with the 49ers having the injury issues, I fully expect this team will be right there in the playoff hunt. And I think that this is a playoff team, regardless of how the roster looks at this point. Like I said, Bosa's the only guy that we know for sure won't be coming back. But on this particular day, Kalia Davis left with a broken hand. Yetur Gross-Matos left with a hamstring injury. That could keep him out a while. But the 49ers depth has really come through. And defensively, Alfred Collins, with that play he made, he might be in the starting lineup a lot sooner than anybody would have expected. So 49ers come out of this with a 26-23 victory over the Rams. And I will say this. I am duly impressed with what I saw as far as what this team showed from a resilient standpoint and coming up with the big plays when they mattered. So thanks for watching this video, and that is it for now.